So, welcome to Macro Mornings. This is Alan Sharp from Rockpile Solutions. What I want to show you today is a macro called matrix copy, and I love it when a customer question comes in the morning that allows me to demonstrate it in context. This morning a customer asked me from New Zealand how to create a triangle mesh over a surface model with triangles of a certain size, equilateral triangles of a certain size, spaced at a certain number of a certain distance of centers. So in this case, what I've done is I've drawn a triangle 10 meters by 10 meters by 10 meters, and I'm going to now make a copy of that over this surface using the matrix copy command. And what we're going to do here is we're going to start off by going to the Rockpile Solutions Data Prep menu, pick the matrix copy command, and in here we're going to actually say we want to select this triangle right here. Now I've drawn the line coming out of this triangle here just to give me an indication of the distance that I want to work in this axis. And what we're going to do is we're going to say we're going to copy the triangle from this lower left corner to the apex of the triangle. And then we're going to go in and we're going to define the matrix that we want to use. So in this case, the bearing of the columns, that's the direction of the spacing of the columns, so that's going to be 90 degrees. And the vertical angle we're going to leave at 0 because we don't want to put in any elevation or any slope into this. And the number of columns is going to be the distance between here and here divided by 10. So in other words, what I'm going to do here is just do a quick measurement. So we're going to measure from the corner here out to somewhere around about here, and that's 630 meters. So we're going to say close that, and we're going to type in here 630/10 because I'm using a 10-foot spacing, and that's going to tell me it needs 63, and I'm going to use a spacing of 10. And then my rows are going to be at an angle of 30 degrees because that's my angle of this side here. So I'm going to put in here 30 degrees. Let's get to the start, 30 degrees. And then I'm going to leave the vertical angle at 0, and then the number of triangles I need for this is going to be the length of this line divided by 10, obviously because my rows are going to be 10 feet apart along this line. So in this case, I'm going to go back and measure a distance again, and I'm going to measure from, let's say, from here all the way up to here, and that is, what's that, 437 meters, or 438. So let's do 44 meters. I want 44 of those, and the spacing of those is going to be 10. And then elevations or levels, I only want one level, so I don't care about this setting at the bottom. And now I'm just going to press apply. At that point now it's created me this matrix of triangles all over the surface. The next thing I would do in this case is use the data prep command called change elevation, and then I can drape those triangles using surface elevation on the original ground model. So I'm going to pick these by layer, and I'm going to say use layer 0 because that's the only layer I've got data on, and say close, and then say use the original ground. Now if I want to use a delta elevation, I could do that too here. I'm just going to say apply, and that's going to now elevate all those triangles that fall within the boundary of the surface, and anything outside that is not going to get elevated. So at this point now I can now pick the stuff that didn't get elevated here and delete it. And now I've got my triangles covering the whole area of this surface. And then the next piece of this, if you wanted to trim these to the edge, would be to go to the Surfaces menu and use the Create Edge Break Line. And I'm going to call it Edge, put it on layer 0 and do it around the original ground and say OK. And that's now built me a boundary line. And then I can use the CAD command called Clip, and I want to remove the lines outside that boundary that I just created. Click on this line right here, and then say lines to clip, pick them by layer, and pick layer 0, and say close. And at that point I hit apply, and that's now clipped those out nicely to there. And so now if I go to my 3D view here and turn off the original ground model, now you can see I've got a perfectly formed triangle mesh surface that actually follows the terrain exactly. Now when I actually elevated those lines, I actually elevated them to the vertices, but also any point where they crossed an original triangle side. So let me just back up a little bit here, just go back a couple of steps where I used the elevation command. Let's go back until I get back to where I was. One more step. Okay, So now if I go back and I say use the change elevation command one more time, let's just do data prep, change elevation. In this case, when I say use surface elevation, in here I'm going to say drape only at vertices and use the original ground. And this time I'm going to say apply, pick by layer here. And that's now saying, again, if I now just delete the ones I don't need, and so that's now draped those triangles on the surface. And if you look at those now, they're going to have nice clean edges because I'm only elevating the vertice points, not where they draped over the triangles of the original model. So whereas before you saw these lines were a little bit jaggedy, now they're nice and clean because it's only elevated the 3 points of the triangle and nothing more. And so now I've got a triangle mesh that covers my entire surface. And again, if I want to now clip that line, I could just go back and do the same thing again, use the clip command. Actually, first of all, do my surface boundary. And now I'm going to use the clip command to pick my boundary line and pick the lines to clip by layer 0 and close. And now I can say apply, and that will clip them out nicely. And now I can say turn off that, and now I've got a nice terrain model made of triangles, in this case 10-meter centers, all over that surface. Again, great use of the matrix copy command. Nice little tool that makes you more productive to deliver results that people are requesting you to deliver. And hopefully, again, this answers the customer's question from New Zealand. So again, thanks for the question and a great use of the command.